Chris Sims, whether you love him or hate him, you can't deny he knows how to get the people going. Plenty of people pay attention to what he has to say. Like, just take this past, what's transpired on Twitter this past month as an example. He posted this, image of his top quarterback prospects, which, obviously the big headline here, Drake May, the guy who many people think should be drafted number 2 overall. Chris Sims doesn't even have as a top 5 quarterback, so that's going to, gets people's attention. Here were some of the comments bringing up the fact that he had Zach Wilson as number 1 in that class. Also another person saying, yes, quarterback expert Chris Sims, bringing up a clip from the past of Chris Sims not getting, John Gruden kind of giving it to Chris Sims, which, like, listen, hey, anyone who's played in the NFL knows more about football than I know, but, still, people getting frustrated at Chris Sims, right? Even Brett Coleman just tweeted out Chris, period. So, well-known people are paying attention to what Sims is saying. Maybe the more controversial take that he had was this one, where he gave his top wide receiver prospects. Marvin Harrison Jr., who many people are saying is this generational talent, is, number 3 on his list. So, again, people not happy. These were some of the replies, based on film in quotes. Hope you get the attention you wanted. Nah, these rankings are clickbait. I refuse to believe anything different. And that's definitely a constant allegation that Sims faces, which is, a lot of people will say, he just does this for clickbait. But he has plenty of fans as well. Largely due to this specific quarterback evaluation from 2018, where this was definitely a clickbaity style list on paper of, Lamar Jackson, who was barely a first rounder at number 1, Josh Allen 2, Baker Mayfield 3, Darnold 4, and Rosen 5. But in hindsight, this is proven to be if not the exact correct list, you could argue Allen and Lamar should be flipped, depending on how you view it. Very close, and certainly a great list, and way better than what anyone else's have looked like. And Sims has had other very good quarterback evaluations over the years. In 2019, Kyler Murray was his number 1, which, he was most people's number 1, but, still was a little bit lower on Haskins than most people. Was a little bit too high on Drew Lock, but again, there hasn't been a lot of great quarterbacks. Daniel Jones was a miss by him, but again, one miss isn't terrible. And then 2022, another one that, as of now, has even aged better, as Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, which, remember, Herbert was, a lot of criticism was put at Herbert's feet in his rookie season, or before his rookie season. Turned out, Sims was right. A lot of people were wrong. Jordan Love, a lot of people had criticisms of. Sims liked, and, Sims still had Tua at 4. All 4 of these quarterbacks have gone on to play well, but this would be my list of the top 4 as of right now. So, certainly some good stuff. Here's where things get a little weird. So, Chris Sims has also mentioned in the past how high he was on Patrick Mahomes, and I've heard people even say he had Mahomes at number 1 on his list as well. This I have not seen evidence of, and I have seen evidence of the contrary. I'm going to play about a 30-second clip of when Sims was asked about the quarterbacks from the, what would that be? That would be the 2017 draft. He was working at Bleacher Report at the time, did not give an official list, but here's what he said about those top 3.
I'm going to put Deshaun Watson number 1.
So we're going to start with him.
We are going to start with him. I'm going Trubisky 2.
Okay.
Now, 3 is a little bit more of what you like
Preference.
And what you need as a team, right? It's in a discussion between, for Patrick Mahomes, Davis Webb, Kaiser, and Nathan Peterman from Pittsburgh. Those would be the 4 guys that would be in that conversation. Mahomes would probably be my 3.
Now, it is worth mentioning that he did at one point call Mahomes the most special quarterback in that draft class, and I think at one point, I believe he was implying that Mahomes had the highest ceiling out of any quarterback. He, at very least, he kind of said it after some of the other guys who weren't expected to go day 1, so maybe he meant just a highest ceiling out of the guys who aren't Trubisky or Watson, but I think he meant, in general, the highest ceiling. So, for me, I don't look at this and say, oh, wow, he was dumb. Like, hey, he was higher on Watson than Trubisky. That's still a pretty good take. Like, I think he did bring up some issues he had with Mahomes, as most people did, but also called him the most special quarterback. And, there is actually it was weird. There's like a Bleacher Report article where Chris Sims says, most special quarterback in the class, Patrick Mahomes, and it links a video that you can't access anymore. But, so I don't know if he later decided that Mahomes was number one on the list, but I did a lot of research. I did not see any evidence of that. If it, happened and been scrubbed from the internet, fine, but I can't give him credit for it, certainly. That being said, even if he had Mahomes at 3, I think it's fair to say these are pretty good quarterback lists. Obviously, I didn't bring up the fact that, kind of the controversial one of putting Zach Wilson ahead of Trevor Lawrence, but he also had some good takes there as well. Wasn't as high on Fields or Trey Lance. And then the following year, he ended up with Stroud at number 1. So as a whole, I think it's fair to say the quarterback takes are pretty accurate. So is that what's happened? Is Chris Sims is actually kind of a genius at this stuff, but people still criticize him? Well, not necessarily. The chart you see next to me, this is now a bit outdated, but this is the chart I did where, I wanted to see who's actually good at this stuff, because we all kind of brag about our good takes and don't bring up our bad takes over the years. So I wanted to kind of make a chart, create this sort of algorithm of, talking about, who is actually good. I use PFF grades as my data. Who is actually good at evaluating this kind of thing on a score, higher score, the best. And the NFL is actually still the best at evaluating players. Who would have thought? They're pretty good at it. That franchise guy, shout out to him on YouTube. Search. He puts a lot of great draft content. He was the best out of the non-NFL aspects. You see Sims all the way at the bottom, and a pretty sizable jump from Sims to the next best, which was Brett Coleman. So, not exactly a ringing endorsement, I would say. So again, just to recap everything that I have said, Chris Sims often gives a lot of very controversial opinions. The quarterback controversial opinions tend to be pretty accurate for the most part, or at least are a lot more accurate than most, as most people, really struggle with the quarterback position. However, Sims's other position rankings tend to be pretty poor, and that kind of brings his overall average significantly down. I think the allegation of, is Chris Sims just a hot take artist? Like, listen, everyone's got to make a living, but at the same time, I don't know if that's exactly what he's doing. I think even Kurt Warner has accused him of just saying things for hot takes. I don't know. It is one of those things where it's like, if you deviate from the norm, a lot of people get upset, even though the reality is, if we all are being honest about this and we all are watching tape and just giving our genuine opinions, we should be deviating from the norm a lot more. And I think people are often too afraid to give a hot take because they're concerned about how things might be perceived, or how people might react to those hot takes. Hit the downvote button on the YouTube video, which hurts the algorithm and doesn't allow for for viewership to happen. I can't speak for everybody, but for me personally, my most controversial videos don't do that well. Usually the videos where I'm, talking about a popular player and how good I think they are, those are the videos that tend to do better. That's just how I view it. But again, I don't live in, it's different on Twitter. I understand all of that. But yeah, so that's kind of how I view Sims in a lot of ways. I don't know if he's a hot take artist. I've listened to enough of his content. I do think that he genuinely believes what he's saying. I do. Now, is it possible he maybe will, if someone was at number 2, is it possible he'll drop them to 4 just to kind of get a little bit more of media attention? That's possible. I could see that. But I don't think he would ever look at a player, say this guy's going to be a superstar, but then put them at number 4 just to do it. But also in, again, doing research for this video and listening to how he views evaluations, I actually think it's pretty clear why we have some really good takes from Sims and some really bad takes from Sims. Sims basically evaluates based on upside. He's looking at who should be the, who has the best chance of succeeding, and if you do have a chance of succeeding, how good can you be? Which at the quarterback position is the way you should evaluate it. It's really hard to evaluate quarterbacks, so looking for upside is actually usually the smart way to view things. But when it comes to offensive linemen, that's a terrible way to view things, and that's why his offensive lineman takes aren't very good, and why his defensive lineman takes aren't very good. That's kind of the way I view Sims. So when he talks about quarterbacks, I think you should listen, and I think he's going to continue to do a good job at evaluating quarterbacks. When it comes to other positions, I think that there's potentially, watch that franchise guy instead. He tends to be pretty good at every position. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Sims. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from ya, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.